So last week we were talking about misinformation that was being spread about Marvel Rivals and how a bunch of Western gaming journalists and modern audience types of individuals were spreading this misinformation and blowing things out of proportion in attempts to further their own arguments about the gaming industry. For those out of the loop on all this stuff, please consider watching the prior segment for the full context, but a really quick TLDR would be this. NetEase decided to lay off 6 people who worked on Marvel Rivals in Seattle. And of these 6 people, it seems like they were largely working on R&D and brought on for temporary positions to begin with. One of them happened to be a director of this R&D team, not the director of Marvel Rivals, but once again a director related to this extremely small team in Seattle. And when they were laid off, he went on to make a post on LinkedIn, and gaming journalists here in the West then used that post to write a bunch of articles that were blowing things way out of proportion, trying to make it sound like a tremendous amount of devs had just lost their jobs, including a position that they were calling Marvel Rivals game director, and trying to use this fake situation that they were manufacturing to further their arguments about the gaming industry here in the West. Other modern audience types of individuals began to propagate this misinformation and also try and use it for their arguments. And here's like the important thing to understand about all this regarding their argument specifically, because all throughout 2024 we saw some massive failures from games like Concord, SSK the JL, and Veilguard, all games that had a number of issues, but one of the many issues related to these games were how they were modern audience slop games. Again, I'm not saying that's the only issue, but it is absolutely a contributing factor. And this contributing factor is something the modern audience types, including these gaming journalists, never want to admit. They're always in complete denial when it comes to admitting how things like DEI can factually cause a negative impact on a game. Take Veilguard, for example, which absolutely does have modern audience / DI elements in it. As we saw shortly after that game's failure, BioWare went through massive layoffs. And so when it comes to Marvel Rivals and this fake situation they were manufacturing, the specific argument they're trying to make is that, see, the gamers were wrong. Layoffs don't have anything to do with modern audience and or DI stuff. Look at Marvel Rivals. Even they just laid off all of these devs and the very game director of the game itself, which once again was a lie. It was 6 people on what seems to be a temporary R&D team in Seattle. And no, it was not the Marvel Rivals director, it was a director related to that team. And furthermore, based off the available information the public has, there doesn't seem to be any like title at NetEase that's simply Marvel Rivals game director either. There's like a number of different director positions, and the closest thing to a game director would be the creative director, Guangyan, who we see in many promotional materials used for Rivals. So in other words, that is all to say that there's been a ton of misinformation and lies that these people were trying to spread. Okay, with all that context, let's hop over to the Marvel Rivals subreddit, because I found a hilarious post. With 6,500 upvotes in the title, I guess it's easier to review bomb the game than search for truth. Sad thing to see. The OP providing this compilation of upset people, all getting upset over misinformation. So let's read these negative reviews that they hit Marvel Rivals with. Going from the review in the top left to the bottom right, we've got wildly successful new release, fires entire Seattle studio, capitalism strikes again. Laying off the team that helped make the game a success once you get what you wanted out of them, classy move NetEase. Laying off devs is not it. Devs are people. Hire the devs back, you leeches. Enjoy this game now while it's still good. NetEase just laid off a ton of staff, including the game director, and I'm calling it now that the game will only be going downhill from here. Next update is February 21st, and I anticipate it to be the last genuinely good update, with each one after being gradually worse than the last, as they don't have the people that made the game fun in the first place anymore. Oh my gosh, the delusions with this person. Like, what the frick? They fired 6 people in Seattle. Forget the thousands of people in China that worked on the game. Like, what on earth? Anyways, aside from that nutcase, we've got these comments. Frickin' game made by a greedy company that fired a whole team for more profit. The company laid off the team that worked on Marvel Rivals. Predatory executives. How could you even believe that? Yeah, they laid off the whole team. There's no one working on Marvel Rivals anymore. There's just no one there left. Bad move, NetEase. The company laid off the North American department. The North American department, guys. NetEase just fired the team that made this game. Most successful free-to-play shoot-bang game with fantastic update schedule and paying attention to its fan base. Lays off most of a chunk of its staff for core development. Stay classy, games industry. See, that's what I mean. That's what these like freaking modern audience types and these journalists were trying to propagate. That this was like an example of how bad the game industry is. And these people are spreading such like insane misinformation, just buying into what the journalists were saying. Fortunately, a lot of people didn't buy the slop these journalists were peddling to begin with. And also, fortunately, a lot of people who believed that stuff to begin with later became wiser to the lies that were being spread. So really, it all worked out in the end, mostly. Anyways, let's finish up these negative reviews. Another one says, I uninstall this game after saw a LinkedIn post. What the frick? Toxic company with toxic work environment and greedy execs. Don't support studios that let go of their teams right after a successful launch. Support devs and artists, not execs. The last one reading. Firing the team who made this game shine after the game more than 100 million in the first 2 months is crazy. Nope, thanks. Yeah, so that person is in no position to be talking about crazy. Okay, so that was hilarious. I would have enjoyed reading more of those, but hey, pretty good compilation there. Thank you for compiling that, Mr. Redditor person. And hey, I even went over to the Marvel Rivals Steam page to take a look at the negative reviews for myself, but there's a lot of reviews this game gets every day, and even though it was like 5 days ago, there's still just like thousands I'd have to go scroll down from, so yeah, I'm not going to be doing all that, but we will take a look at this chart. These are the recent reviews for Rivals, and we can see this spike in negative reviews on February 18th and 19th. Basically, they got double the amount of negative reviews they average each day during those days of the news cycle going on. And hopping back over to the Reddit post with the compilation image that we took a look at, we'll finish by reading some of the top comments, such as this one that says, Coworker came up to me today. Hey bro, did you hear the bad news? What? They fired all those people from Marvel Rivals. Cue me having to correct him. A response they got reads, my stupid, clueless, brain-dead roommate that never looks beyond surface level did the same thing. So we argued for about an hour until I just gave up and said he was right. Dude probably still believes the head director got fired. Yeah, the journalists would never lie about anything, right? Like, that's crazy. They wouldn't do that. Speaking of the journalists, another top comment reads, gaming journalists doing their finest job, spreading misinformation. Congrats. When I'm in a spreading misinformation competition and my opponent is Kotaku. I based Marvel Rivals subreddit for calling out Kotaku in a top comment. Let's go, gamers. Let's go. Now sorting by controversial, I found this comment that says, I love how one says, you laid them off after they helped making the game a huge success. Like, yeah, what else are they supposed to do? They got hired for a certain job, the job was done, and now they aren't needed anymore. That's how the world works. Am I taking crazy pills, or why are people so out of touch with normal business stuff? Should they keep them around and paying them for basically nothing? I don't get it. Response they got reads, they are projected to make $1+ billion, and it's a live service game. I'm pretty sure they could find work for 7 guys. Don't need to suck their boots just because you love their game. But the other user responds, saying, doesn't matter, they're contractors. They did what they got hired for. And if there's no need for them anymore, they get laid off. Sure, you could have a moral argument on it, but still, if there is no need for their work anymore, there isn't also a need for them to keep them around. Or would you keep a construction worker around after they finished working on a house because that one that commissioned the house is wealthy enough to let them sit around? Have some common sense. Alright, that was a fun little continuation of the segment from last week. So let me know what you think about all of that stuff in the comments. If you enjoyed this segment, please also consider liking and or subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.